Ian, are you joining us?
I'm just checking in case there is anything else.
I thought you just started reading a book. Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week, I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glanz. In today's episode, we talk all about niching down. What are the pros and cons of committing to one particular style, and what are the possible ways in which one can niche? Without further ado, let's get into the show. What is up, guys?
You've just come back from holiday, Tom. So what is up with you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Lisa.
Good.
I may have just come back from my lovely jaunt in Croatia. An engaged man.
Oh, yeah.
So you're off the table then?
Yeah, sorry, I know we got a lot of ladies listening to the show, but yeah, it was the best week, and that was like obviously the most special moment. So yay! Happy days.
That is so cool.
In a similarly romantic way, let's talk about niching, because what could be more romantic than that?
You've niched down.
Very, very quick.
That was pretty quick.
What are we going with, by the way, guys? Are we going with niching, which sounds almost French? Je suis niche? Or niche. Are we going niche, the American way?
Niche sounds very harsh, doesn't it?
It does, yes. I used to listen to a business podcast from some of my old mentors, and I think like every episode practically, I would always hear like, niche, please. So are we going to go with niching?
Niching. That's the word
we haven't got the American here to tell us off. So
yeah,
this is true. We're down to Dustin. We're missing Dustin today.
I like that we're down to Dustin.
But we've got the lovely Lisa back. So I'd say that's a more than fair trade, to be honest.
Aww. And
also for anyone watching the YouTube version of this show, I'm at home, kind of cooped in a tiny boiling hot room instead of the office, if I look a little bit close to the microphone. But without further ado, let's jump in, because this is something, I think we've covered it like in little pockets here and there on the show.
Yeah, we have.
I know we've talked about developing a style in our first ever episode, like 2.5 years ago, but I think we should expound on that. And also, I know there's many ways in which someone can niche. So let's make this 45 minutes or so of unbridled value when it comes to niching for creatives. And I mean, first of all, what are your guys' thoughts in a nutshell? Good, bad? What do you reckon?
I think it's definitely good for your building of your brand, without a doubt, because people will know you as the person that does X. And the thing is that I think where people are scared of niching, they assume that it has to be extremely specific. And I think you can go very specific, or you can niche in terms of a particular style, or niche in terms of a particular, color palette, or particular work that you do,
or
maybe
type of client.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
or
you
industry.
You could be like the branding person, and that's like, that doesn't mean every single job's going to be the same. In fact, it's going to be completely different, hopefully, every time, because you're creating a new logo and new brand for somebody. So that's like quite a broad niching. Then you could really niche down even more within the branding and say, well, I'm only going to do, I don't know, baby companies or companies that deal with kids, or so you could really decide how much you want to niche. But I do believe it is a good thing to do, But I have to admit, it's quite difficult, even for myself. I mean, I know how difficult it is to kind of stay focused on one niching. But if you want to build your business and become known for that thing, that is the quickest way to do it, without a doubt.
Yeah. Ian, what are you thinking?
I'm going to read something because it's better than my thoughts.
I like that.
So actually, cause what came with the idea of this was I'm reading a book at the moment, which I got because I heard the guy speak at the Birmingham Design Festival. Michael Johnson, not the Michael Johnson, the runner, but Michael Johnson, the creative director. And it says that, it would be great to do all these different kinds of things, but you may have to face the facts that clients like in-depth knowledge and a track record in a particular sector. So what niching can do for you is make you a specialist. Even though you may not feel it, a client is looking for someone who's specialised in that area. And like we do when we're looking for other people, in terms of specialist in doing, woodwork or...
if you say building,
I try.
He's trying
you know
not
you
to.
want to.
He's trying not to.
Yeah, but you got someone who, we've got an old house, so we've got a traditional chimney, and if we want to use a fire, we have to get a chimney sweep, and that is a really specialised job.
Do they still exist?
They do, yeah, because especially in the UK, because we've got
Wow.
Please
tell me that he showed up with like a thick Cockney accent.
Yes, and did he end
all
up
right,
like
Governor. Tap and shake me for your chimney.
He did a little dance on the roof with his mates.
Oh, that's so cool.
Honestly, if you were like on the dating scene, what do? I'm a chimney sweep. It's like, go back to 1800, mate. That is...
How do you think chimneys, open fires, get sweat?
I presumed there was some kind of, like those little robots that bounce off your furniture and clean your floor. I thought there'd be one of them by this point.
It is less, it's not glamorous, but it's less movie-like, as in they have a big Hoover. So it's like, like they cover the front of it. This is so off topic, but they cover the fireplace, and then they've got a really big Hoover thing that goes up it.
That just sucks everything.
It's not like the old days where they just found the smallest boy on their team and shoved him up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
With big hair.
Health and safety probably these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ian, I hear what you're saying. That's a perfect example. If you wanted a specific job doing, you would hire someone with a very specific set of skills, like Liam Neeson, right?
Yes, definitely. And I was thinking actually how many of the biggest companies in the world started off doing just one thing. Mm-hmm. So you had like Nike was just doing running shoes, wasn't it? I think, or something like that. And then it went out to more broader running equipment, but then it does so many different things. And like we have a company in the UK called Innocent Smoothies, and they just did smoothies, but now they do all types of things. And I think it's that being known for that, and being known for that specialist subject at the beginning, and it doesn't stop you from branching out in the future. I think people need to get their head around what other people perceive you, and it really helps also when you're just starting out, because then your friends and your family, when people say, "Oh, what does Ian do?" Back then it was like, "Oh, he does websites, so go to him for a website." Whereas if it was like, if I was just promoting, I was a graphic designer, people just don't know. Non-graphic designers don't know what graphic designers do. We said, okay, do in, a one sentence what I do as a graphic designer. People will be like, I don't know. So, being able to, but I don't worry about it, strapping down your
niche
limit of your work you're going to be able to do. It's just, think of it as like the avenue for getting in clients, because you could get a web design project in, and then you say, oh, by the way, I do logo design. Oh, you do logo design as well? That's brilliant. We had that to it,
Mm.
rather than trying to be all these different things
everything.
at
Yeah.
beginning. You're
Yeah.
just sort of funneling people in through your specialist thing,
Yeah.
and then you can offer all these other things.
Yeah. So I watched a video, I think it was yesterday, from Christo at the Future, and he was talking about the T, wherein if you picture the letter T, I know you like letters, Ian. You've got the top bit going across, which is say like your service offerings, which are hopefully quite closely connected, and then like the trunk of the T, the long bit, is the depth of your expertise, and the deeper you get, you go from being like a novice to intermediate to specialist. And he was saying how you should aspire to have a T type model to what you're doing, i.e. go deeper and be more of a niche down specialist. And it's kind of another way of putting what we're talking about already, but I think it's something I hear time and time again, and whatever model people want to use to articulate that point, I think it's a very salient point. And he was kind of saying how if you then push the T over on its side, that's what a lot of people are doing, where they're basically not really going deep at all, but they offer a surface level of expertise in all these different things. So they do a bit of lettering and illustration, branding and graphic design and all these things. And it's something which is very, very common.
Yeah.
And the more I'm helping people one-on-one through my personal stuff and my Instagram, I see it all the time. Like it seems to be the default mode that people are like, I do a bit of everything. And it does seem to be those things, lettering, illustration, brand work, like all of it. And
you know, you guys have read like a lot of business books, right? I'm sure, Tom, you must have.
I don't read that much, actually.
Really? Okay, well,
Yeah.
I don't read a lot of business books, but every time I do, there's one of the things that they always mention is that being a successful entrepreneur, and you could actually translate that into anything, being a successful designer or illustrator or hand letter or whatever, is not only knowing when to say yes, but also knowing that you have to say no to a whole bunch of stuff in order to be successful, you know, in this particular avenue that you've chosen. So basically, if you're going to say yes to everything, it means that you're saying no to something else. And if you are taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then, as you said, you're never niching down to something and getting really good at something. And you're basically spreading your skills kind of quite thin.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think from a business point of view, it makes sense. From an artistic point of view, it also makes sense. Although I know a lot of artists I'm one of them, have that urge to like dabble in a whole bunch of stuff.
All right, so let's stick with that for a second.
Yeah.
What's that about? Because that seems to be the natural inclination that creatives want to dabble. Why is that?
You know what I think we suffer from? Well, I don't know well, I'll just give you my opinion. I think what we suffer from is that we want to turn every exploration into a possible new avenue, when in actual fact we should be doing exploratory work and experimentation and playful and everything, and combining it to our current niche. So like I think, well, that's what I suffer from. Like whenever I stumble upon a new kind of technique or a new method or a new look, I go, oh, that could be cool if I did like just that. And like we always want to branch off too many times. And I don't know.
Here's a question. Is it ironically tied into the fact that we kind of want to be good, i.e. be a specialist in things? So we think rather than like dabbling around this one current thing, it's like, well, if I'm doing a bit of lettering, why don't I go more all in on lettering and add that to my roster so I'm a letterer, because I want to be good at it, because creatives don't want to suck, they don't want to produce bad work. So do you know what I mean? So it's kind of paradoxically,
I do,
by wanting to commit to it more to be good at it, they're committing to multiple things and being worse at everything.
Exactly, because then what happens is if you're going to say to yourself, right, I'm going to now commit to the lettering thing, that means that your illustration, if that's what you were doing previously, is going to slip. You know, so you got to basically, you're giving up something else in order to pursue this other thing. And I think as creatives, we want to, it's like we're kids in a candy store. It's like it all looks so exciting and we want to try it all. But the thing is, we can't if we really want to be seen as the expert, or if clients go to our website and go, hang on a minute, I can see exactly what I'm going to get if I hire this person. I mean, I once read this illustrator was struggling. She does a lot of editorial work, and she was really, really struggling to get work. And she said it literally changed the minute she decided to focus on one style and use one color palette. And that was it. Just those two things. And she's now one of the most famous editorial illustrators. Not that I can remember her name right now. But you know, that she's now makes a full living just doing that. And because clients are scared to just hire like somebody who's all over the place. But when they land on, go for it.
No, sorry. Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but when they land on your portfolio or website or whatever you want to call it, and they can see exactly the work that you do, because you're not doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, there's nothing to even and ah over. It's like, oh yeah, they hired. I know what I'm going to get.
And the thing is, it is really difficult, like even within a niche, to then niche a bit more. Because like lettering is a niche, but it's like once you get in, you realise there's just so much to it.
Oh, it's
so
huge.
Like, you know, I've got, for me, I still need to do that on my personal website because at the moment, you know, I do murals, I do like work with companies, I do, you know, I might do logo design, I might do, you know, t-shirt design, and I have to think. Actually, there's like clients coming from this angle, clients coming from that angle. And I really need to think, okay, what is it that the work I really want to get from my personal site? Obviously, I have my other site where it's my shop, which is my main big focus. But sometimes I like getting a little bit of client work, you know.
Yeah.
But actually, what I need to do is make sure my site reflects the fact that actually the client work I want to get is actually working with brands with my social media, rather than actually I don't want to do much logo design at the moment, and I don't want to do much sort of like editorial design at the moment because I'm not a big fan of like the tight deadlines that they keep imposing on me.
Yeah.
So, but my site doesn't currently reflect that, so that's probably why I'm not getting any interest in any of them because they're like, hang on a minute, he's not really done many murals, so he's not an expert in that. And he's only got a few of these pieces on there, so the site needs to direct, your website needs to direct people, the right people, through your site, and then they get in contact, rather than a load of people sort of maybe, and then you end up like I
with
get
a
all
whole
the time
bunch
because I don't even break. It's just like loads of people asking for the thing that I'd never actually do. So
yeah, which proves you've got like a clarity issue.
They know I do lettering, but it's a bit dispersed in terms of the message that's coming through.
So when it comes to niching, can we play a little exercise? So let's talk about and I'm going to use like Formatom. So when I was doing web design and consultancy and freelancing, I'm going to use that for this example. But with all three of us, can we talk about something that makes us niche in our service offering, or a few things that make us niched, and then a few things that show variety? Because I know does that make sense? So,
yes.
So Lisa, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't understand. So,
yeah,
okay. So Lisa, what's a few ways that you've niched down? Basically?
Okay, so people know me for cute animals, like whimsical sort of characters. They know me for a little bit of, you know, like floral work or whatever. And then the other stuff that I would say that's probably my strongest thing that people know me for. Mm-hmm. And then the other stuff that I've diversified, I would say I do kind of more painterly, inky work. I do sort of botanical work, you know, that's a little bit more sophisticated. Yes, and I kind of like do textures but the odd font,
Yeah, I was about to say, what about just beyond style? So, so you've just said you do illustration as
Yes,
your main thing.
Yeah.
Like whimsical illustrations.
Yes.
That'll be how most people know you.
Yeah.
But you also produce fonts and textures and other things, and you also do some work which is of a slightly different style.
Yeah, and then just more recently, I've started. I mean, in terms of the actual business model, more recently I've started doing surface pattern design for clients. So that's like a totally different avenue. So that just shows. But those clients found me or approached me because when they went to my website and they saw the kind of illustrations that I was doing, they knew exactly what they were going to get if they hired me. And because the first thing she said to me, oh, I want to have something that's just like that and just like this. And she kind of like pointed out all the products, that I do produce that she can at least use as a benchmark, and helps me, because that's the other thing that we also haven't mentioned. It helps you as the creative understand what the client wants, because then they can at least go, okay, hang on, that's what I like. That's the kind of work you've done previously. So it's not like you kind of farting in the wind and you don't know what you're doing.
What a lovely turn of phrase.
Oh, sorry. Didn't you miss me?
So much, truly.
Yeah. So
I would say maybe you're niched in terms of your color palette.
Yes,
that seems to be quite consistent. That doesn't bounce all over the place. So I know if I want that quite like light and fresh, bright look, it's not
kind
exactly pastel, but it's not garishly bright either. So if I wanted that for a project, I would naturally gravitate towards you.
Yeah. So I think the color palette kind of is a complementary to your style. So if you can niche down your color palette, especially as an illustrator, I'm sure illustrators out there would agree, then it helps you work even more in terms of looking specific, like a particular style. So I mean, I know some people that just literally use 5 colors and they just do not deviate. And look, I would love to be able to do that, but my brain just doesn't allow me for some reason. But yeah, I kind of stick to a particular tone.
You do, yeah. I mean, look at Megladoodle.
Yes. Perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's more than 5 colors.
Yes, more than 5 colors.
She's got quite a limited, very specific color palette, which really works for her.
Totally.
It's quite bright, isn't it? Quite contrast to Lisa's.
Yeah, and quite different as well.
Yeah. But I mean, you could, if you saw her work, because that's what all adds to it. If you see her work, you don't even have to know that. You won't even have to see her name on it to know that it's her work. So that's super important, I think.
Love it. So, and I would agree with all of that. Ian, how about you? Where do you think you've niched down a bit?
I think I've niched in terms of videos. That I really do video, iPad, redrawing on the iPad.
I know you do the occasional illustration, but I'd say generally you're regarded as a letterer.
Yeah, I was trying to think how in terms of lettering I've niched down, or
but even doing lettering predominantly is a niche.
Yeah.
It's funny how we both skipped that. I mean, I also didn't mention my. I'm an illustrator. And Ian didn't mention I'm a letterer.
And that's one of the biggest ways.
I know.
So I think I do a bit of illustration on the side. Lettering's my main thing, whereas Lisa's illustration and does lettering on the side.
Yeah.
So we're like
yin and yang.
Yin and yang.
I think as well, Ian, and this is kind of ironic, but I would say your natural experimental nature is in itself a niche.
Weirdly, it's become that. So
yeah, you know what I mean? So it will lead to more diversity and disparity in your work, which is almost straying away from niching, yet somehow it all gets tied together with a nice ribbon around it, because I think of you as the experimental letterer, where you never quite know what you're going to get, but it all sits under this umbrella of being experimental.
But it's the weirdest thing, because I mean, I follow a few letterers, but whenever you're post comes on my feed and I haven't seen that it says Ian Barnard, I just know it's you. It's like,
what, even if it is like a picture of a lion.
yes,
or
literally,
whatever.
like it's the weirdest thing. Like I just know. Maybe I'm used to seeing your hand.
I know that hand.
I don't know, but I just know it's you. There's something. I don't know. It's just Ian all over it.
I do. I'm very thankful. I do get a lot of comments from people saying how they enjoy or they've been inspired by the fact that I am quite happy to put myself out there, trying a new style of something, even if it doesn't look the best.
Yeah.
But
like, can we reverse it back for a second? So imagine if, Ian, instead of doing what you do, you just put the same generic lettering every single day. We've talked about this before, the whole like run free into the woods, like all that kind of stuff.
What I used to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. So if you still put out nothing but little variants on that, you would technically be niched, but it would be a really crowded niche and it'd be really boring and not that fresh, right?
I think something that's really helped me is that, and I've seen other people sort of fall victim of it, is not evolving. Because you can have like you can have something that's really popular and you think, oh, I can just continue to do this, but what happens is that there comes a point when it tails off, and because you haven't evolved, it's really hard to then pick that back up again. Whereas if you constantly evolve, and evolving doesn't mean like completely changing, it just means adapting to suit the environment or the culture that you're in, I suppose.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a drastic pivot to something completely new.
No.
You might end up doing something completely new, but it's like a very slow evolution.
It's just like small
iteration.
tweaks to maybe small tweaks to not everything, but just like maybe down to the pen that you use. You could still do the same style, but using a different tool to do that, or a different way of presenting it and stuff like that. I was just thinking of like how, like, there's a guy called Mr. Doodle who's got a few million followers on Instagram, and he doodles on everything, and they're just black and white doodles, like really intricate like doodles. But he, you can see him evolving, but it's the same essence that you see throughout the feed. And I've seen a lot of people either do that, which is really healthy for their business, but then I see a lot of people just trying to do the same thing over and over again, and it's not really, it's been popular at first, but then it's tailed off much quicker.
Let me give an analogy. So when thinking about niching, I tend to think in terms of like the size in terms of your market, i.e. potential clients, and then the size in terms of your market in terms of competitors. So, for example, let's look at like general lettering. I would argue it's entirely possible that there's more letterers than there are clients who want lettering.
Yeah.
Say that again. My head couldn't compute.
I think there might be more people doing lettering than there are clients who want lettering.
Yes, you might be right, actually.
So I don't know how many letterers there are, but I would say millions at this point.
Yeah.
So let's just make up some numbers, but let's say there's 5 million people doing lettering, but there's 2.5 million clients who potentially want it, or something like that. So you can see there aren't enough clients to go around. There's only half a client per letterer.
Yeah.
And you need a lot more than that to sustain a business. So initially people might look at it and go, wow, there's 2.5 million clients out there for what I do. There's a huge abundance. Like, I'm going to be able to tap into this huge market. But if you flip it, and let's take the example of Mr. Doodle, how many people were there fully committed and being like a professional doodler? I can't really think of many others, but let's say let's think maybe there's 100.
Yeah.
Right. So there's probably not going to be 2.5 million potential clients who really want to hire you just to do doodles, but maybe there's going to be 1,000 or 10,000 or something like that. So when you look at that as a ratio, let's say there's 100 people doing it, but there's 1,000 clients. Suddenly you've got 10 clients per doodler, but you've only got half a client per letterer.
Yeah, that makes it. Yeah.
So, and I think that's what people need to really take into account more, because I think everyone's romanced by the idea of just tapping into a big market. Like, well, everyone needs branding, but it's like, but also everyone is offering branding for everyone.
Yeah.
And I see it time and time again, especially with people starting out. And to an extent, there's nothing like too wrong with it as you wet your beak and try a few things and just learn your skills. But if you're really looking to break out and make a successful career, you don't want to be that local designer who's basically doing any type of creative design work for any type of client. That is as unleashed.
And normally, if I may add, any type of money.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, so it's like, I'll do anything you need for anyone for any amount.
Yeah.
Like, that is the opposite of where you want to be. Yeah, it's the most common persona that I see in designers.
That's where I was. I was like,
that's where I was too.
Paycheck to paycheck, just like, oh, you want me to design, I know, your dog's birthday card. Yeah, fine, I don't.
And because that's the other aspect we haven't actually mentioned about niching. Niching allows you to charge more because you know the expert.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but you command more control over your market.
Yeah.
Because if you offer the same as every other designer practically out there, which is everything for anyone, then you have no control.
No.
You demand more money, you demand anything, they'll just go to the next person down the road.
Yep.
And the thing is, clients don't want to hold your hand. They just want to know that they can give you the work and they can trust you.
Exactly that.
And, you know, experience really matters. Experience and being able to show that experience means that the confidence of the client increases. And so, I totally agree that being niching down to a niche like lettering meant that there was less conversations over costs and less revisions, just because I suppose they saw me as an expert in my field, which I didn't feel like
true.
I was.
There's like an unspoken trust before you've even entered into any kind of transaction. They already believe that you are, of a particular caliber. So they're going to go with your opinion.
Let's use another example. So if I was having car issues, and let's say I walked to my office and there was a guy stood in the street being like, trying to earn some money here. Whatever you need, I'll wash your windows, I'll paint your roof, the roofs get painted, I'll paint your walls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't think of like
it's like I'll fix your car, I'll fix your bike, I'll do whatever you want. Like, I'll do a little dance for you if you need.
Love the accent, Tom.
And and imagine the lack of confidence you'd have taking your car to him to get fixed, as opposed to taking it to a garage with a specialized mechanic. And that mechanic, as often happens, which is obviously awful, they pull the wool over people's eyes. They almost abuse the clients because they hold so much power, because the client doesn't really know what they're doing. They do trust in their expertise. So if they say, well, that's going to be really expensive, I need to redo half your car, you're like, oh, God, what a drain, but fine. But if it was the guy down the road doing that, you'd be like, oh, piss off, mate. You're talking nonsense. Go and wash someone's windows instead.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I like Tom's analogy, like the mechanic. Say you've got two garages. One's just a general car garage and one specialises in VW and Audi, for instance. I've got a VW. Automatically, I feel that I'm going to go to the VW specialist, because that's going to be the one that's going to know
your car better.
Yeah, and know how to fix it. And it's not going to be one of those cases of like you come away and it's like rattling or, stuff like that. And they had neither garage have said anything. It's just that I know that one of them is a specialist in the thing I need.
Yeah.
And so I'm more likely to, one, trust them, spend money in at that place, and I know what I'll be getting. So
the bottom line is it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. I mean, look,
Yeah.
there are obviously the businesses out there that, offer everything for a really competitive price. And that's an entirely different business model. But I think it's more exhausting to be, in a battle with that than it is to be niching down. And obviously we want to be happy and creative, not, freaking out and running around trying to find business.
Lisa, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to be Stephen. Okay. And Stephen is this kind of entry-level designer who wants to do it all. And Stephen is going to fire objections at you. And I want you to address them. Okay?
Why do I get the shitty job? Okay. All right. Okay. Hit me.
All right. Hello, Lisa. My name's Stephen.
apologies to any people with Stephen out there that Tom's just
Why if I burst out laughing? Okay. Hi, Stephen.
I'm not going to keep the voice going. I can't. Okay, so
go for it.
Lisa, if I niche down, won't that be limiting my potential number of clients that I can get?
Well, if you can show me that within a month, you can't really go on a month. If you can show me within 6 months, if you've managed to retain business, earn the same, and have continuous kind of loyal customers coming back to you for business versus niching down to something where you can charge more, you can, you have definitely retention because clients will know that you're the person to go to for X. If you can show me, I don't know, if you can show me the difference, then I'll say go for it. But in my opinion and in my experience, niching down is a sure bet to earning more, retaining clients, and, getting a better deal out of the whole process.
Okay. And the voice is going to come back now.
I can
Lisa.
see that.
So, Lisa, I hear you, but I get really bored and I like to do all sorts of work. So,
well, that's what
I don't want to just do one.
For. Well, I hear you. That's what hobbies are for.
Also, I like your glasses.
Well, thank you. Flattery doesn't get you anywhere, I'm afraid. And besides, aren't you engaged? Okay.
Stephen's not engaged. He's never had a girlfriend.
Oh, shame. Okay, well, that would explain a lot why Stephen is a little wet behind the ears. Okay, no, this is going nowhere. Yeah, I don't know. I need to really I'd have to sit down and think about that, Tom. But seriously,
because I'm actually thinking of a couple of people that I've worked with where they seem to never be able to focus down and stick on one thing.
I just think it's you know what? Okay, I've got an answer actually. It's not well thought out, but that is why I still think that if you're a newbie to this industry, I think it's best to get a job at an agency or a magazine or wherever, basically at a place where you can get a set salary, and you'll have time to mess around because you have their equipment and whatever, and that's where you can really dabble in things on the side. But then you've also got a job that you can, get a salary from, and I think only once you've kind of got that out of your system where you feel oh, do I want to do branding? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do layout? Do I want to... I think only until you found that out, and hopefully you've been paid along the way. And the only way to really could do that is to be employed. And I just don't think...
Let me counter that for a second.
Yeah,
because I think your point is spot on. I think it probably is important to dabble because if you've never tasted this other stuff, how do you know?
How would you know what you want?
It's a lot of commitment, right? It's like marrying the first person that you go on a date with.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say marry the first person you asked to marry.
I mean, it's a wacky approach, but I figured I'd try it. No, because like for me personally, right? Over the years, I have tried a very small amount of logo design because I wasn't very good at it. I've tried complete brand designs. I've done a lot of web design that I specialized in.
Yeah.
I did a healthy amount of photo manipulation. And probably other stuff as well, to be honest. There was probably at least half a dozen things. And I gave all of them a fair whack. And then all of that led to me, when I was freelancing, having a very specialized thing of offering web design with a view to mainly it being redesigns of existing websites, with a view to directly increasing sales and conversions for solo entrepreneurs.
And you probably wouldn't have got to that point if you hadn't kind of dabbled, beforehand and figured out, okay, hang on, I'm actually good at the web design thing and I have a knack for, getting better hit rates or whatever for clients.
Yes.
So you do need to figure that out. I completely agree. That's why as a young designer, fresh out of school, and the only option of employment is freelance, then by all means take any job you can get. And in those first blooming years where you are, kind of still growing and figuring stuff out, probably in the first 5 years, you're going to realize, actually, I'm really good at branding. I'm not so good at web design. Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It is a good idea. But I think when you start realizing that you are particularly good at something and you've been in the game for a couple of years, it is definitely time to niche down, because as we just discussed, it means better clients, better money, easier projects, and something that you're really good at.
And better marketing.
Better marketing, but you basically don't have to market, because it's like your niching is marketing for you,
Oh, well, that is true. But I think if and when you are marketing, you can do so more deliberately and more confidently.
Exactly.
Because you can say, well, I might only have 1,000 potential clients, but that makes it easier to identify where they are. Yeah. And then I can hit them with my pitch saying, I do exactly what you love for people like you.
Yeah.
And then all of everything from your Instagram bio section to your entire copy on your website is focused intently on that.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff is marketing, but it's like laser targeted.
Yeah.
Something to add into there, don't know which side are we. I think people are scared of going like, a few years down the line, niching, and then realise I don't like it anymore. You sort of fall out of love of your niche.
Well, I did that. I mean, I changed graphic design. I was very strong in layout. That was my niche. I literally dropped that and took up illustration. So it can be done.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.